Well, there's only really one thing to talk about on this glorious Monday morning. At least that's what it is for me right now. It is currently 8 o'clock in the morning. You might be watching this at a later time in the day, and that's fine because the news is still as good then as it is now. Brie Larson's The Marvels bombs at the box office with worst opening weekend in MCU history. You don't even need to adjust for inflation, as they point out in the article. The number is fine just as it is. This is great. This is what happens when you turn your brand into a girl power machine, a brand that already had a fan base. We're going to chase a mysterious new fan base because we sandwiched Captain Marvel between two of the biggest movies of all time and thought that meant that the movie could actually carry its own weight. Oh, no, that didn't happen. Also, doesn't help that the movie itself is objectively just awful. The Marvels is perhaps one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's not good in any way. It's poorly edited. The music is awful. The acting isn't bad. I actually thought the three of them were fine in their roles. The material given to them was quite awful. I think performance-wise, Brie Larson is better in this movie than she is in the original Captain Marvel because she doesn't try to act so stoic the entire time. She kind of lets her personality come out a little bit more. But it really doesn't matter when the movie is hot garbage. So let's take a look at some of these numbers because they are indeed awful. And then we're going to look at some of the cope and excuse-making going on there from the crowd that usually calls you bigots and stuff like that. They're coping hard over this movie. This movie has got a lot of tears flowing because they all thought this was the next thing. Obviously, all of us were stupid. We couldn't see the potential in trying to turn Marvel into a Barbie brand, even though we already know like what kind of money a movie that actually is like Barbie can bring in. Nobody wanted this movie, and it's really funny that they're attacking men so hard when I guarantee you, if we can look at the data, the majority of people that went to see this movie were probably men. The Brie Larson-led The Marvels bombed in its opening weekend at the box office, posting the worst opening weekend in Marvel Cinematic Universe history without even having to factor in inflation. According to the numbers, the film only grossed $47 million in its domestic opening weekend. The film grossed $6.6 million on Thursday night, $21.5 million on Friday, and $15.3 million on Saturday, and $10.2 million on Sunday. Internationally, the movie brought in $63.3 million with a grand total of $110.3 million. Oof. That is bad, real bad. That's not good. That's embarrassing. And they pushed hard to get this movie in China day and date. And look what that brought them, $11.7 million. Oof, that's bad. This movie's going to lose a lot of money. A lot of money. Had a huge budget that got inflated thanks to reshoots and so on and so on. And I would not expect a return at this point. In fact, I think this movie will end up on Disney Plus real fast, just like The Flash did. The Flash didn't end up on Disney Plus, but it wound up on HBO Max. Oh, man, it felt like 30 days after it hit the theaters. It was already free on HBO Max. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't that far off of its release date. It came out pretty quick. This movie, I totally expect to be a Disney Plus release very soon because I think, The Hunger Games comes out this coming weekend, right? Or the weekend after. This movie's going to fall off a cliff next weekend. You're going to see a massive drop. I want to say 70% drop from this weekend. That's my guess. Because this movie is not going to have good word of mouth. So the people that have seen it, They're all saying the same thing. It sucks. So no one's going to pick up to go see this. The movie's not going to have legs. It's going to fall off a cliff next weekend, and then the weekend after that, it's almost going to have nobody, and it'll already have barely any times in the theaters. So this is hilarious to me. I think this is absolutely funny. That mysterious audience, once again, not showing up to a show, not buying a comic. What is going on here? I mean, we were told that mysterious phantom audience is the future, and they were for sure coming. Now, let's take a look at some of the cope, because that's the best part, and you know it. The cope is glorious to go over. This one doesn't really have much to do with the movie other than the end credit scene, but this is apparently from Screen Rant. The MCU officially confirms first 3 Young Avengers. Who else could join? My prediction, this will bring in even less money than the Marvels. Nobody wants these Young Avengers, especially Antifa Ant-Girl here. I could give a shit about her. She was the most unlikable person in that movie. Antifa Ant-Girl. Let's call her Antifa Ant, the Antifa Ant. That's a good name for her. This movie is going to be dog shit. No one will go see it. This one, I better see the exact same energy from y'all when Aquaman 2 bombs even harder. Don't worry, you will, because Amber Heard is an awful human being. But that movie is probably going to make more money than the Marvels. You know why? Because it actually has something that women want to see. Jason Momoa's chest. So I would imagine that movie will make more money than this. I think Aquaman 2 is definitely going to bomb. It's not going to make the money that its predecessor made, but it's going to make more money than the Marvels because women will actually go see Aquaman 2. And that's kind of the sleeping factor in Aquaman 2 because women liked Aquaman. Aquaman 1 had a lot of women that went to watch it, unlike the Marvels. The fact that these cat ladies that run Marvel don't understand why that is shows you why the state of the universe is in such bad shape. Because this movie had nothing that women wanted. Wine women that enjoy their wine and cats, wine moms, stuff like that, they will like this movie, probably, maybe. But they're going to wait for it to come on demand, probably. They're not going to leave their house. Come on. Not going to leave. They got cats to feed. I'm kidding. But the movie is a cat lady's dream, for sure. If you've seen it, you know why. Then we have Stephen King saying some of the rejection of the Marvels may be adolescent fanboy. Hey, yeah, girls. Now, what I find funny about this is that it was mostly men that went to see this movie. I mean, you have to know that, right? You have to know that. The new excuse, this is the big one. Disney's Marvel Cinematic Universe is no longer a bulletproof box office franchise. Misfired with $47 million in its opening weekend to land the worst debut in MCU history. And this guy conveniently runs in real quick. You conveniently forget to mention that this is the only MCU film without actors promoting it due to being on strike. You and other outlets certainly seem to remember it when Loki Season 2's OK premiere numbers came out. Here's the thing. How do you explain Barbie, Oppenheimer, and movies that have brought in tons of money that weren't promoted by their stars? Why can't people just accept that this movie failed on its own merits? It's a bad movie. Because, well, that would be admitting that people don't want the MCU, which even Grace Randolph reluctantly admits is true true in this clip that Nerdrotic shared. Let's take a look at this one because this is glorious.
Now, I'm sure you've heard the term MCU. It's being used by some fan communities. And yes, the term is extremely offensive, but it's also becoming undeniably true.
Well, how about that?
Oh, it's great. Oh, that's great. I'm loving this. The The cope has been beautiful. There's a really long stretch from, was it going to let me pull into it? This guy right here went on a 10-post meltdown, going crazy over this movie. I've been having fun with this all weekend. Here he is. I don't know who this guy is. Apparently he's a part of these shows. Okay. He had a big old meltdown. Says any reporting on the Marvel's box office that doesn't mention the fact that its stars were on strike and unable to promote it at all is incomplete and irresponsible at best. Promotional materials have immense value. That stuff helps build movie-going experiences. Now, I 100% disagree. That's only if it's neutral. If Brie Larson and co. had been promoting this movie, let's be honest, they would have been talking about white men, probably current politics that are going on, stuff like that. And that stuff hurts. It probably would have brought in less money than it already did, to be honest. But this excuse also ignores the success of movies like Oppenheimer and Barbie, which had nobody promoting it. It's a fact. Nobody promoted that shit. And they did fine. This is a shitty excuse because it really would not have brought in another $100 million. Wouldn't have brought in $100 million. Maybe what? $10 million? That value is not as significant as people are trying to make it out to be. This is going to be the new excuse. This will be the new excuse for why this failed. Oh, if only Brie Larson could have saved it. That's the first thing that should be included, but there are others. The ongoing the ongoing right-wing grift campaign against it is also hurting it. I don't think so. No, because there's been movies that have come out that I haven't liked and made videos on, and other people have made videos on that did quite well, regardless of our opinions on it, to be honest. And that doesn't matter as much as they're going to try. They're going to blame us now that this is the one time we actually made it work. The new storm of false bullshit surrounding its director, I haven't heard anything about that other than the one time she came out talking about white dudes, which was months ago. And the fact that it's more diverse than the first film, that's why it lost money. Now Islamophobia. The movie doesn't even talk about Islam. What are you talking about? Kamal Khan? She is a Muslim. She is. But they never even talk about it in the movie. Not once at all. I don't know what it's like in the show. I didn't see the show like most people. But I really don't think anyone cares. General misogyny. Now, of course, sexism is why it failed, even though the most people that went to see it were men. Sure. The fact that it's the first project of specific bullet of parts of build-up or behind a paywall, no, I don't think that hurt it. Actually, that might have hurt a little bit. I don't think as much as he's playing it off to. I do think the fact that you have to do a lot of homework to follow this shit now has turned people off, but that's been hurting Marvel in general. It goes on and on. Take your cope aspirin. You'll feel better in the morning. Anyway, that's pretty much it. A glorious weekend. Thought this was hilarious. Loved seeing it just absolutely crash and burn. And we'll see some more, even though, well, maybe not, because Deadpool 3, I think, could turn things around. A lot is riding on Deadpool 3. A lot is riding on it. That movie also could be good. If there's one Marvel project outside of Guardians of the Galaxy 3 that has potential, it's that one. Then we're going to go to Captain America 4, which is getting extensively reshot over the next year. So who even knows what that's going to be like? I don't know. Marvel is in a bad spot, and this shows you just how bad it is. And they did it to themselves. Had one of the easiest money-making machines ever in the history of Hollywood, and they burned it down. Burned it to the ground. Anyway, what are your thoughts on all this? I'd like to hear from you in the comments. Also, make sure you're subscribed. Subscribe if you're new. Hit that notification bell. Check out my Rumble and Locals. And I will see you on the next one. Peace. Make sure to check out my Locals. There's a link in the description. It's a fun community that I'm trying to build over here. If you don't want to support me on YouTube, you can come over here. None of that money goes to YouTube. You also can just come over here for free. But if you are a supporter over here, I do plan on doing an extra live stream once a month and throwing links to the supporters so you can actually come on and have a supporter live stream with me. Also, it's a good place to catch all of my content. You don't have to worry about notifications like YouTube. They'll definitely work over here. So come check out my Locals.